All right. All right, everybody. I'm Coach Dale with BPC, co-founder and coach of BPC. Um, we really appreciate everybody coming out, starting up your computers and staring at a screen for an hour or so. Um, we are really excited to have Casey on board as our one of two resident nutrition gurus. She has a lot of experience in nutrition, obviously in RDN and a bunch of other letters that I don't know what they are. But she has a lot of relevant experience as well as an athlete, and also using nutrition to power her performances. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to Casey. Real quick, Casey, are you sharing your screen? Is your screen shared?
Now do you see it?
All right, who can everybody see Casey's screen? The presentation, thumbs up. Fantastic. All right, I am passing it off to Casey, and she's about to wow you with some nutrition knowledge.
All right. Well, first of all, yes, thank you all for coming out this evening, or not really coming out, staying in, but at least logging on. I am glad that there is a presentation so that you just don't have to stare at my face the entire time. But this presentation, I wanted to call it Training Starts with Fueling, because I wanted to shift the focus from running or exercising so that you can eat more junk. I wanted there to be a bigger focus on the micronutrients that you need, the vitamins, the minerals, all the stars that are in your diet that really help improve your performance. A lot of people know that they need more energy, they know that they need more calories, but what kind of a quality is in those calories that they're eating. So I wanted to kind of expand a little bit more on what nutrients are especially important to athletes who are putting in hard training days. You can't really expect to be able to train really hard and perform really well without fueling your body with what it needs. So, clicky click. Okay, there we go. So who am I? Those of you that don't know me, I am Casey Katz. I am a dietitian, and I have been for about 4 years. I am also an athlete. I've started running, I guess, about 10 years ago, and just got into the multi-sport and cycling more around, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago. I do swim, but, that's probably not by choice. No, but I really do enjoy hanging out with athletes, learning about athletic needs, and especially about nutrition in athletics. So I have been doing most of my work in clinical, but endurance exercise and nutrition for endurance exercise has always been a passion of mine. So just to give you a basic breakdown of what the difference is between a dietitian and a nutritionist, because I get asked this a lot. All dietitians are going to be nutritionists, but not all nutritionists are dietitians. So if you looked at all the funky letters at the end of my name, you might see the RDN, and that basically means that I'm a registered dietitian or nutritionist. So I can be called either one, but the dietitian credential is going to be protected by law. So I can work with people who have different dietary needs. I can provide medical nutrition therapy. So I can recommend dietary practices for people who have different medical conditions. A lot of it has to do with education. So your dietitians are going to have gone through a college degree program that's been accredited. They have gone through supervised practice hours, which most of it is done in a hospital setting, which that's about 9 months of unpaid work. So there's some dedication there. And then you have to pass a national exam to get your credential. And then after that, of course, complete some continuing education to maintain that status. A nutritionist can be anyone. It can be a chiropractor. It can be a high school student. I mean, it's a word that many people can just throw around or claim. There are people who do have degrees in nutrition that call themselves nutritionists. So, they may have some background and some good education in nutrition, but they didn't necessarily go for their RD. And a lot of those people might be working like with food manufacturing and food science, or just in general wellness promotion. They're should not legally be working with people for disease management or for people with special needs. And I would consider an athlete somebody who has special needs because they have a greater energy expenditure and are a little bit more specialized than just your regular individual. I always say, whenever I compare that with my students, I always say Gen Pop. We always talk about Gen Pop, the general population, instead of our state that we are working in. So who are you? Hopefully you are somebody who is, if you're obviously here this evening, you're somebody who wants to make a change to the way that they've been eating. Whether you've been feeling tired all the time, whether maybe you think that your injuries might be a result of your weight or what you've been eating, or the lack of quality in your diet. All those could be reasons why you may need to make a change. A lot of people know that nutrition is important and it's essential to make the right choices, but they may not know exactly what they need to include and at what times.
And one thing I'll interject there for a second is kind of what Casey was referring to is the general population and athletes, even endurance athletes, if you want to dig down deeper, are vastly different. And maybe not so much in the nutrition that they take in, but the output that we put out on the expenditure of energy and also things that we secrete as we work out is far greater than the general population, and therefore we need a different nutrient balance than other people. I guess that's just my interjection there. Keep going. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So one of the biggest things is we always look at weight. People are most worried about their weight, whether it's aesthetics. I mean, a lot of endurance sports, we're all wearing tight spandex. So, I mean, part of it would be, our looks is what we think about first, but it really goes a lot deeper. And typically in endurance sports, the lower percentage of body fat and lower weight does help you move more efficiently across the distance. So increased speed. We're all here to compete. So having lower body fat and lower weight is typically more desirable, but most of us know that. So the risk of being overweight, of course, we know medical conditions that are related to it. So we want to avoid diabetes, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, being overweight or eating too many calories can also impair our cardiorespiratory conditioning. So it takes a little bit more out of our body. It's a lot harder to move around a lot of weight, and it puts a lot more stress on our heart when we have to move around a lot of excess weight. Carrying excess weight can decrease our speed. So your fat that's on your body is basically taking a free ride and maybe slowing you down a little bit. It's not producing any energy. It's not producing any speed. So it's not moving you across the ground any faster. And then also being overweight can increase your risk of sprains and stress fractures. And a lot of this has to do with biomechanics, with having excess weight on your body. That being said, being underweight or having the skinniest person out there isn't necessarily going to be the fastest either. So on the other end of the spectrum, we have people who are underweight or under fuel. So these people have a greater risk of nutrient deficiency. So if you're restricting your calories, you're likely not getting enough of your B vitamins that are needed for energy, your calcium for your bone mineralization, or iron to deliver to oxygen to your muscles. If you're not getting enough energy in general, you're probably feeling quite tired, pretty fatigued. It can decrease your cognitive function. So that basically what that means is not being able to think as quickly. Your brain functions off of carbohydrate, and if you're not giving it enough energy and carbohydrates, it can make it difficult to think, which can really play a role, and especially in like a sport like cycling, where you need to be paying attention to everything that's around you, cars, other cyclists, potholes, and everything else that you're doing. With being underweight, you also have an increased risk of stress fractures and soft tissue injury or strains. And just in general, it has an overall impairment of athletic performance. So basically what this means is we don't want you to be overweight, and we don't want you to be underweight. So choosing the right foods to get you to the right weight is basically where we want to be. Thought I heard a cough. So that being said, we look at our weight. We might say we're overweight. Typically around this time of year, we usually get a lot of pressure anyways, with New Year's resolutions and wanting to decide what changes we want to make. There's all kinds of new fad diets that come out this time of year, new books and things like that, that you might want to hop on board on. But as an athlete, it makes it really difficult for you to follow any kind of general population diet, should I say that? And there's a couple of reasons why, and mostly it comes back to needing more calories and carbohydrates and energy than other people. So you can't diet like other people. During the off season is probably the best time to make changes, because you're not performing as many high intensity workouts, and you're not and you just don't need as much carbohydrates to fuel those workouts. A lot of people don't think about it during the winter and tend to start their dieting maybe after their key race. So let's say Memphis in May comes along, and you put on your tri-suit for the first time, and you go, oh my God, it didn't fit like this last year. So you start to restrict your calories after your first race, even though you have maybe 10 more races set up for the year. That's the period of time when you are doing a lot of intense training and racing, and not the time to be restricting calories. The best time to do it is when you're in the off season. When you restrict your calories so much that you hate your workouts, it's really just not a good thing. You end up hating food and your workouts. A lot of people will try to eat as little as they can all day long, and then they end up binging at night. They forget that they need to eat during the day to have high energy for their workouts, and end up binging at night when they have nowhere or no time left to burn it. Eating the same thing every single day can ultimately lead you to blowing your workout because it gets boring. A lot of people don't want to eat the same thing every day. So learning how to make your diet variable helps as well. A lot of people connect good and bad to foods, and they might say, okay, if I'm on a diet, I can't have fruits, I can't have bread, I can't have ice cream. So they completely omit them from their diet because somebody told them they were bad, or maybe they read that it was bad. So this is never a good idea, because those foods are, one, they contain a lot of vitamins and minerals that you do need, and two, they you're gonna eat them again. This isn't something that you could do lifelong. So avoiding those foods that you consider completely bad for you may not be beneficial to sticking to a diet. But the bottom line is that you need adequate amounts of carbohydrates and fuel, or just total calories, to meet the demands of your sport, so that you can recover well, and also so that you can recover well and be fueled for your workouts. In general, most active females are going to need around 1,800 to 2,200 calories if they were restricting their diet. And a lot of males may be able to get away with 2,400 to 2,800. And this is just very, very general. It's nothing to take gospel as. Those are just general ranges. But when you start dipping below those ranges, you start missing out on nutrients that you need, and you start feeling fatigued or feeling hungry all the time.
So, Casey, just to kind of clarify, so kind of what you're saying is, if you guys are looking to lose weight via calorie deficit, make sure that deficit each day is much smaller versus doing several days of large calorie deficit days as far as calorie intake.
Definitely. So whereas a lot of your fad diets are going to have this really large caloric restriction, where you have these, it might be 800 calories a day or 1,000 calories a day. It's much better to just cut back 500 calories a day to lose weight than it would be to go on this big caloric deficit. So yes. Yeah.
The other side of that is, we talk about all the time, and we use the phrase, eat to train, don't train to eat. And that just means, like Casey was saying, you need to eat within the phases of training that you're presently in. So if you're in the off season, you're doing mostly easy. I won't say base when I use the term base, but mostly easier efforts. You may be taking extra days off. Like Kate said, you don't need the carbohydrate intake. You're not putting out that high enough intensity to need that many carbohydrates. And a lot of people would say it's also a time to help train your body to actually oxidize fat more efficiently.
Right. So during your off season, or even on your lighter training days, your easier days, you have to adjust your intake. You can't always be eating high carbohydrate, high calorie diet all the time. I know that it's always seems to be a shock when I was training for the Ironman, I was eating like an Ironman for sure. And then afterwards, it was hard to kind of adjust and realize that I was definitely in the off season, because you've gotten so used to eating a lot more and increasing those carbohydrate needs. But in the off season or your lighter days, you definitely want to shift your focus. So in terms of food, if you look at the two plates that are on here, now not a lot of people, I'm sure some people set up their plates like this, but you can also do it in form of a bowl, a sandwich. It's all the same thing, but for simplistic purposes, we like to look at the plate method. So on your off season or lighter days, you would typically eat more like a general person than your athlete, but having a lot of fruits and vegetables, meaning those non-starchy vegetables, to give you those vitamins and minerals. A quarter of a plate of whole grains or other energy foods. So this could be beans, or it could be some other starchy vegetables here. And then a quarter plate of lean proteins. Now on the in-season or your harder competitive days, you definitely need more of these energy-enhancing foods. So you want to pile on your beans. You want to have corn and sweet potatoes, and not shy away from these things. And it's still possible to meet these type plates and still lose weight if you need to, still adjust it to meet your goals. But this is in general the difference between the two plates when you're looking at them. So you basically have more fruits and vegetables that are non-starchy, so that you still get the same amount of vitamins and minerals, but you have a little bit less calories and carbohydrates because you're choosing non-starchy vegetables. All right, so quality. So now we're going to kind of go into some key micronutrients. And micronutrients are called just that because they are needed in smaller amounts than macronutrients. In general, they help you use the energy that you've consumed. They help transfer oxygen to your muscles, and they help repair tissues. So these are a few that are most important to athletes. So first are going to be your B vitamins. Your B vitamins are going to be your water-soluble vitamins, which means that you need them daily. If you've ever taken a multivitamin and noticed that your urine was a bright yellow, that's one of your B vitamins. That'd be your riboflavin. So they are excreted from the body on a daily basis, so you need them every day. There's been some debate about whether you need more or not, but there is some research that says that the B vitamins you do need more of, especially in the proportion of your energy intake, to convert that extra calories into energy. So if you were eating 2,000 calories and now your energy expenditure has you to eat 4,000 calories, you would need twice the amount of vitamins, or B vitamins at least. So this is why, when you're planning your diet, and if you ever look at your energy expenditure and say, okay, I've got 2,000 calories, or I burn this much so I can eat a chocolate cake. Well, in reality, you kind of need these vitamins and minerals to help you perform better. So it's not always that you have room for extra food. You need to take a look at what you're eating so that it can help your activity rather than hurt it. Deficiencies in B vitamins can affect your performance. So if you are deficient in any one of these vitamins, it will definitely affect your performance and make you feel tired. But supplementing it above the recommended amounts doesn't improve performance. So basically that's saying there's no superhuman power that is provided if you over supplement these multivitamins. A lot of your energy drinks, they're called energy drinks, and they say, oh, we've got all these vitamins in it, but a lot of your energy and the improved performance comes from the caffeine, not really the B vitamins. Let's see. So one of the studies that I was looking at showed that 10 to 60% of female athletes don't eat enough of their B vitamins. So whether that's restricting their intake, not having a big variety of food, it's actually quite prevalent in female athletes. So if you're one of those that is exercising so that you can have your couple of glasses of wine, it's definitely something to look into. So what foods contain B vitamins? They're actually found in a huge variety of foods. So thiamine is going to be found in whole grains, beans. It's really high in pork. Riboflavin is typically found in your milk and dairy products, also in your dark green leafy vegetables, whole grains. Niacin, meat, fish, poultry, bran, grains, milk, eggs. Folic acid in your leafy greens mostly, even though a lot of people probably get their folic acid from fortified cereals and grains. So a lot of your bread products, if you eat bread, or your cereals, are going to be fortified with folate to help you get that. Biotin and pantothenic acid, you don't really find a lot of deficiencies in these B vitamins because they're so widespread. A lot of your foods have just a little bit of it, and you don't necessarily need a whole lot of it. So I'm including those, but they're nothing to be too excited about. B12 is going to be found in your animal foods and nutritional yeast, and then your supplemented foods. So a lot of your soy milks for people who don't eat meat can help provide your vitamin B12. So for B vitamins, you need these nutrients to use energy. If you use the car analogy of, you need gas for your car for fuel to move it down the road. Your B vitamins are like tires. They're not fuel, but you definitely need your tires to get down the road. They help you convert energy into the form that your muscle actually uses. They're found in a lot of different foods. So that's another reason why it's so important to have such a big variety in foods. If you omit certain food groups, then you can put yourself at risk for a deficiency. So if you're not eating beans, or if you're not eating grains, or if you're not eating a dairy product, you might look towards some other foods that are supplemented with some of those vitamins. So like this plate over here has a good assortment. Maybe that's a lot of meat. I don't know. No, but it's got a lot of different colors, a lot of different fruits and vegetables, grains and meats to have a balanced plate. And then again, supplementation of these vitamins won't improve your performance unless you're deficient. So if you go out and you drink one of these energy drinks that has B12 or B6 and expect it to make you run faster, the research has shown that it doesn't unless you are deficient in that vitamin.
Casey, can you give a couple of examples for the vegan and vegetarian folk out there on what foods are really good about having a lot of B vitamins? Just a recap.
Well, for B vitamins, their one main concern is going to be their B12. So your supplemented foods are going to be really a lot of some of your bread products will be your cereals and other grains, and then some of your like soy milk or an almond milk may have that supplemented into it. And then actually nutritional yeast, or the nooch, if you've ever heard of the nooch. Anyone heard of the nooch? I guess you can't answer that. It's a product that contains B12 that vegans use, and it actually has a cheesy kind of creamy flavor that you can add to dishes as well.
Sweet, perfect. My wife likes to add nutritional yeast to anything she can dump it on.
I just like saying the nooch. I'm gonna put some nooch on that. So, all right. So vitamin C is our big antioxidant. The antioxidant that helps us repair all of our torn muscle fibers from all of our intense exercise. So vitamin C has been shown that we do need more of it with the increased amount of activity or increased intensity of activity. The ranges are pretty broad, but they're more than the general population. There we go, Gen Pop. So it's anywhere from 100 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily, which on the next slide I'll show you kind of an idea of what those foods are. So the people that are at risk for a low vitamin C intake are probably people who are restricting their calories way too low, or if they're avoiding many fruits and vegetables. If you supplement vitamin C in these mega doses, it does not have any kind of ergogenic effect. And ergogenic basically means that it's intended to enhance performance activity. So you won't be any faster if you supplement with it before a workout. And also a lot of these emergency supplements and whatnot. Some of them can be kind of hyperosmolar, and they can actually, they may actually cause some diarrhea if you take that before a workout. So if you're taking those repeatedly and having some stomach issues there, that could be one thing to look into. So do I need to take a vitamin C supplement? In 2 words, probably not. If you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. So 1 orange has about 70 milligrams of vitamin C. Your berries have a lot of vitamin C. Sweet and regular potatoes both do. And just most of your fruits and vegetables do. So as long as you are eating a lot of different, vegetables with your meals and incorporating them into snacks, you likely get enough vitamin C. Vitamin D. So vitamin D in the nutrition world is the new trendy vitamin. There's a lot of new research out there on it for immunity, for different disease states. They're even looking at it to treat depression. Insufficiency is very, very, very common in the athletic world and across the United States. So if you haven't, I would definitely tell you to go get your vitamin D levels checked. I think it's about 50% are insufficient, and maybe around 15% are deficient. And I've seen it in a lot of people who are runners and who run outside in the middle of the day and would, as you would think, supposedly getting enough vitamin D. But there's a lot of different things that go into vitamin D absorption. So your skin color, your whether or not you're wearing sunscreen, clothing, what time of day it is, your body composition. So if you're overweight, you don't absorb as much vitamin D. In extremely obese individuals, the vitamin D actually gets sequestered or stuck in the fat cells and doesn't get to be absorbed. And as we age, we also don't absorb vitamin D as well either. So the darker your skin color, if you wear sunscreen, if you're wearing long sleeve, if you're running at 6 p.m., all these things can affect your vitamin D absorption and can make it very hard to get an adequate amount of vitamin D. So it's very important to get that checked.
This is also the time of year when it's doom and gloom outside all the time that most people run into vitamin D deficiencies. We call it the training blues because nobody wants to actually go train and get. They're not. We find a lot less motivation, all this kind of thing. But a lot of it also comes down to the fact that they're not actually getting all the vitamin D that they need because the sun decides it wants to stay behind the clouds.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So midday sunshine, which isn't always practical because most of us work full-time jobs and we're not allowed to go out in the middle of the day just to go outside and get some sunshine. And it's not very practical right now to go outside without a jacket anyways. Maybe last week before Christmas when it was extremely hot. And vitamin D isn't really found in a lot of foods naturally. So we really depend on that sunshine, but it's hard to absorb. And then we don't get a lot of it from food. So it is found in fish. Your salmon or your tuna are good choices to get vitamin D. It's found in some mushrooms. And then it's found in a lot of your fortified products. So not a whole lot of foods are fortified with it just because of the risk of toxicity. But some of your breads are, some of your cereals are. Orange juice is one. Trop 50 makes a calcium and vitamin D supplement, or fortified orange juice, which is really good. Or some of your soy milks or regular milks have vitamin D added into it. If you are deficient or insufficient, you may need a supplement. For deficiencies, sometimes a doctor might prescribe a weekly dose or else a daily dose. So you may see it as a 5,000 international units, which isn't a daily dose. That's definitely a weekly dose. So if you just go out and start looking at supplements and you see the biggest one and it says 5,000 international units or 50,000 international units, be sure to look at the frequency of it, because it's meant for once a week. But choosing between D2 or D3 really isn't a big deal for you taking it, unless you have kidney disease, but you shouldn't. So taking those if you have been prescribed with or are diagnosed with a vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency. And that's another one that you should definitely get checked. So calcium. So calcium's another bone mineral. It's needed for muscle contraction and nerve conduction. So it basically sends messages to your muscles. It can be lost in sweat. So you have in the summertime, you have even greater needs of calcium, and just a little bit higher than the general population. In general, most people do not get enough calcium, from what I've seen, and just with us not drinking milk as much as we used to anymore, we tend not to get a lot of calcium. But it's important because calcium vitamin D can help prevent stress fractures. But the best time, so you need about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium each day. But if you take it all at one time, you likely won't absorb all of it at one time. So the absorption is best when you have about 400 or 500 milligrams at a time. That's really pretty much all that your body can handle. So spacing out calcium-rich foods throughout the day is also key. So having a yogurt with breakfast and a cottage cheese as a snack later, and maybe feta cheese in your salad at night can really help boost your calcium stores. And I feel like can be neglected at times. So yes, calcium. Dairy products are our biggest source of calcium. Your other vegetables like broccoli and kale and spinach and tofu also have a good amount of calcium in it, but typically not as much as your dairy. Again, you have fortified foods like orange juice and cereals and some puddings. But in general, there's a lot of the dairy is where you're going to get your calcium from. So Some ways to do that would be to add some ricotta cheese to your pasta dishes. You could make your own cream sauces for different soups or pastas using milk and flour instead of the creamer and whatever else that the processed stuff has. You can add arugula or spinach, these leafy greens, with some cheese to your omelets. Having a smoothie for breakfast, which a smoothie could have some yogurt or it could have some silken tofu. So if you're a vegan that doesn't want to have any dairy products, silken tofu is a great substitute for some smoothies as well. Or another example would be the Greek yogurt parfait. So all these are different ways to have more calcium spread out through your day. I think the easiest time to get calcium in is your breakfast. A lot of our breakfast foods are, in general, it's more inviting for yogurt and milks to be in our breakfast food. So trying to plan that in is definitely key. All right, so iron is the next one. And iron is definitely a big one. If you are deficient in iron or have an anemia, it will definitely affect your performance, and it'll affect the way you feel all day long. People who are anemic are tired or cold. It's not going to make training very fun because you're not getting enough oxygen to your muscles. So in physical activity, you lose it in sweat, you can lose it in urine, and then you can also lose it in foot strike hemolysis. So basically, if you are a runner, this occurs or can occur just with the pounding of the pavement. So some red blood cells can burst, releasing iron, and making and losing it there. Out of everyone, the prevalence of a deficiency is relatively low. You see a lot more in women, but out of those 3 to 5 or 1%, a lot of those people are physically active. So a lot of those people are athletes or endurance exercise individuals. So you'll see a lot of people who they're just more prone to it with athletics.
Casey, if you don't mind me, I would say in our little small world of endurance sports, the prevalence of iron deficiency is much higher. We have we train a lot of female athletes, and I probably personally alone see at least 2 to 3 cases a year of a female athlete who is low in iron and gets diagnosed as far as having a deficiency. So if you train for anything fairly seriously and consistently, I think is the key there. You have to make sure you're getting enough iron.
And one thing with if you just go to your primary care physician and they draw your hemoglobin level, that is an indicator. Your hemoglobin can tell you whether if you have an anemia or not, but you may have low ferritin levels or low storage form of iron, and not necessarily anemia. So it may not be showing up in your red blood cells, but it can still affect how much you can train and how well you can train by having low iron stores. So and yes, you do see this a lot in females, because there's a lot of people who, you know, restrict your red meats, restrict a lot of these iron-rich foods. So here are some foods that are higher in iron. I'm pretty sure we all know that the red meat, beef, pork, lamb, is going to be higher in iron. It typically gets a bad rep because there's a lot of ways, or a lot of the forms that we eat from it are high in fat. So if we have burgers, or if we choose different fatty cuts, then it can have a lot of high fat, and can be a little bit excessive in calories. But there are lean cuts of meat, and that are perfectly fine to incorporate into your diet. The dark meat on chicken and turkey is going to have more iron than your breast, or your white meat in poultry. Your black beans, you know, other beans are going to have a lot of iron in it. I think with vegetarians, you know, you have a higher risk of iron deficiency, and that's not because I feel like a lot of people who are vegetarian that may be iron deficient just have may have poorly planned diets in general. So a lot of the times when meat eaters go vegetarian, they just omit the meat and they don't add many things back into it. So you have to remember that if you're going vegetarian, that you need to include your beans and your grains, and not just eating non-starchy vegetables. You got to have these iron-rich foods in there. When you add a fruit or a vegetable that's high in vitamin C with your iron-rich food, it helps absorb that iron. So you help get a little bit more of it if you pair it with a vitamin C rich food. So having a synergistic blend of foods is always going to help a little bit more. So do I need to take an iron supplement? If we're saying that everybody's deficient, should I just go ahead and take it? Well, technically we say no. Not unless you have been diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia or iron depletion by a doctor. So iron is actually a pro-oxidant, so it's the opposite of the antioxidants, and it just shouldn't be taken just because you think you need it. Some of the medications can cause some GI distress depending on if you have a gut of steel or not. But in right now, the recommendations are not to supplement it just because you think you need it, but instead to make some diet changes to help you get more iron and absorb more iron. That being said, it can take 3 to 6 months of a supplementation to reverse an iron deficiency. So if you have been feeling fatigued over the last 3 months and think it may be related to your iron stores, if you don't eat a lot of red meat, if you have a poor diet, then that might be something to look into with your PCP as part of your panel. In general, if you just say, I'm an athlete and I'd like to have my anemia panel and my vitamin D status checked, a lot of them understand that and can show you. When you supplement iron or do excessive amounts of supplementation, it can interfere with zinc and copper absorption. And zinc is another nutrient that's also important in immunity and recovery and repair. So whenever you take a supplement every single day, you may be offsetting, if you don't need it, you may be offsetting the balance that your body's used to working or metabolizing nutrients.
And I think one I don't know if you touched on it, but the big important thing with iron, as far as your performance, is iron is one of the big micronutrients that helps carry oxygen to the muscles. So without it, you can have the biggest oxygen uptake in the world, but you're not going to get all that good oxygen to the muscles to create energy, to create force, and to move your body.
Right. So these are some other key nutrients that are important to athletes that I didn't necessarily do a big highlight on. Magnesium is one that we look at that's involved in cell metabolism. And again, a deficiency can impair performance. But a lot of your magnesium foods are found in your calcium foods. So you can, like dairy products. So in general, if you're focusing on calcium, you can tend to get enough magnesium in your diet. Zinc is another one that's related to helping fight off illnesses with muscle growth and repair, and energy production. That the people that are at risk are your vegetarians and your vegans. But a lot of your foods that are high in zinc are also high in iron. So if you're focusing on those foods that are high in iron, you're typically getting enough zinc. Zinc is another one that's found in a lot of those immunity type preparations, so your emergency things. So if you're taking those a lot and you're taking a lot of zinc, it can also interfere with your iron absorption. So those mega doses are in general something that you don't really need. Your vitamins E, beta carotene, which is found in vitamin A, and selenium or other antioxidants that also play a vital role. And your low-fat diets are, a really big restriction in fat, put you at risk for not having a lot of vitamin E or vitamin A. But for all of these, the supplementation greater than your actual needs is not recommended. So it doesn't improve your performance if you supplement it, but having a deficiency would impair it. All right, so this is a little in-depth. So dietary supplements are huge. Everybody, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Most people, or half of Americans, purchase dietary supplements. So why athletes buy dietary supplements? A lot of them have a lot of claims, jump higher, move faster. But although some of them are safe, a lot of them just aren't effective. So I always advocate for saving your money and not necessarily investing in a product that may or may not, or there's no research to support it to make you have better performance, to not invest in it. So some of these are some supplements that do have some potential benefits and others that don't. So starting with antioxidants. So this is usually a blend. These are like your mega doses of vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, and it sounds great. A lot of them are marketed as, you know, having more vitamins, that more is better. But the effectiveness could potentially be negative against your endurance training. So in repeated training, you are basically putting on, or you're creating a stress that's desirable. And antioxidants can actually impair the adaptation that you have to training. So if you're taking mega doses of these antioxidants, you could be stopping the intentional effects that you want from endurance training. Now, getting just adequate amounts through food, that's not going to affect, that's just going to help fight inflammation caused by the stress of endurance training. But when you take these mega doses, it has the potential to actually negatively affect it. So if you went out for your long run and then you came home and you said, I'm going to take a vitamin C or vitamin emergency, it's going to help me recover, it may be doing you more harm than good. Beet juice is one that actually has shown some promise to increase muscle efficiency. So it lowers the amount of oxygen that your body needs, and has been shown to improve performance. If you like the taste of beets, it could be a useful supplement. But the bottles are generally they're in my opinion, they're expensive, but they are, I don't know.
Have you ever tried to juice a beet? Juicing a beet is beyond impossible unless you have a massive juicing machine. And then, to put it lightly, if you drink beet juice, you're going to be wondering if you're having GI problems for at least 24 hours.
And some people hold on to the pigment in their urine, but sometimes it can be actually, if you have lower iron stores, it shows up more, is what I have read before too. But yes, you'll think that you have a kidney injury because you're peeing, it looks like you're peeing blood almost. But beta-alanine, if you've ever taken a supplement with beta-alanine, then you've experienced that tingling all over your body. But it also has some promising results from it. So it helps to buffer out your muscle pH. So it decreases the time for your muscles to be fatigued. So some of your pre-workout supplements contain beta-alanine as a part of that. Your branched chain amino acids, or the BCAA, you've probably seen that on some of your recovery drinks. So a lot of times these are thrown into your protein supplements for recovery. It's not to be used beforehand for performance enhancing effects. It doesn't have any benefits there. But it has shown some good results on helping you fight off illnesses as an antioxidant, and then fighting off post-exercise fatigue as well. Caffeine is a friend. It works as a stimulant and has been shown also to improve endurance performance in high intensity activities. There is a I think there's a legal limit as well for professional athletes, but it's been, when they compared really high caffeine doses to moderate caffeine doses, they've shown the same amount of performance at a lower dose than at a very, very high dose. So you may not need as much as you think. And if you get it from sources like coffee and whatnot that could be working as a diuretic, you just have to be aware of those consequences as well. Or pee in your tri-suit. So multivitamin and mineral supplements. So a lot of us just take these as nutritional insurance. We think that we have crappy diets anyway, so we take a multivitamin and mineral supplement as a just in case. It is effective to an extent. So if you are having nutritional deficiencies or have a nutritional deficiency, it can help fill that gap. It's not, it cannot prove to reverse any nutrient. Sorry, I had a cat on me. So it won't improve your performance, and then it also won't prevent chronic diseases. So when they compare people who take a multivitamin supplement to people who don't, they haven't shown any less occurrences of cancer or diabetes or chronic kidney disease or anything like that. So people that are substituting multivitamin and mineral supplements for a healthy diet aren't helping themselves in those terms. And that, I mean, that's going to be because there's so much more to food than just vitamins and minerals, with fiber and phytonutrients and everything else that we haven't studied. So quercetin is another one that I think is relatively new, and it's showing some more research and promise in the studies now. But it's been shown to improve endurance performance to a small degree. I think it was maybe 4% or something in the studies that I read. But it may help prevent against some oxidative damage and have some anti-inflammatory effects. So it seems to work as an antioxidant and may, to some degree, improve performance. Your vitamin C or E supplements, which function as antioxidants, are not really effective for the purpose of increasing performance. They're going to be more beneficial as an antioxidant, and just really better for you to just get it from your foods. For vitamin D, of course, it's going to improve your vitamin D status if you are deficient. So that is one that you may want to take if you have been found to be deficient or insufficient. With all the articles and everything out there about dietary supplements, you want to make sure that you're training safely. So a lot of dietary supplements can be contaminated with steroids, with any other amount of products. So these are a few organizations that will evaluate other dietary supplements to ensure that they don't have any performance enhancing drugs in them. So if the company has taken the time to have their product investigated by one of these companies, it generally means that it'd be safe to use, and you won't have to worry about any kind of drug test or anything like that. So choosing high quality dietary supplements is definitely a big decision.
For those of you who compete regularly, it is up to you to know what things are and are not acceptable in competition, in and out of competition. And there's a lot of great websites that you can actually just look up different supplements, and it'll tell you exactly if it is or is not acceptable, or if it's acceptable up to a limit, or if you have to get essentially a waiver, or forget what it's called, but you have to get permission to use it in competition.
It's a TUE.
Yeah, the TUE. So just know it's your responsibility to know what you're putting into your body if you are into competition.
Yeah, so they don't accept that you didn't know it was in there. That's not okay. It's still your fault.
Tainted.
It's still your fault. Okay, so this is just an example. I'm sorry, I just realized what time it was. I've been talking a long time. A lot of people will tell me, this is just an example, like what they are eating in a day because they're dieting. So this is an example of a 24-year-old girl. Maybe she's a runner. She's running about 5 days a week, an hour, easy. So she's about 140 pounds and about 5'4". So she says, I had a granola bar for breakfast and then with my coffee. A little bit later, I had my snack with a banana. Maybe she went for a run after that. And then she had lunch and she got a salad because people think that salads are the healthiest things in the world. So she got a salad with some lean meat, some chicken. And then for dinner, she had some fish, maybe some tilapia, a sweet potato, and broccoli. So when I calculate her needs for being an active individual, I would say she needs about 2,500 calories to maintain her weight. Her protein needs are going to be based off of her being an endurance athlete and a goal of losing weight. Her carbohydrate needs are, they're basically 5 to 7 grams per kilogram, which is on the lower end for base training because she's not doing a lot of high intensity exercise. And then she has 45 to 65 grams of fat to fill in there. So when I look at her diet and analyze it, I see she's eating about 850 calories, maybe about 60 something grams of protein, 100 grams of carb, and 16 grams of fat. So just looking at the very basics, you can tell that she's definitely under fueling. She's probably feeling extremely tired and extremely hungry. She might feel great the first 2 days, but then will eventually start feeling pretty terrible. Protein is under, her carbohydrates are way under, and fat is way under too. For her B vitamins, maybe she's meeting some of them because she's got some grains. She's got, some lettuce and tomatoes, a banana. The sweet potato probably helped a little bit, but she may still be kind of on the lower end. If you look at her calcium, she's only got less than 300 milligrams of calcium. She's got a really low intake of iron. She might have gotten some from her granola bar, from her chicken, but she really didn't have a lot of iron. And all of her other intakes, her fat-soluble vitamins are definitely going to be under because she's only got 16 grams of fat, which is extremely low. So when I look at her diet, There's a million things that we could do to upgrade it, and probably in a bunch of different ways. So if we're going to upgrade it, I'd take a look at it and say, okay, let's revamp her breakfast. Let's put a little bit more calories in the morning so that she is getting enough nutrients. We're picking from a couple of different food groups here. So we have some oats, which are our grains, our whole grains. We've got our strawberries, which are our fruits. They're high in vitamin C. We've got almond butter that we're going to mix into it, or we could do peanut butter to give us some healthy fats and some good vitamin E here. And then maybe having some milk with her coffee. She could mix some of this milk into her steel cut oats. She could even put her oats in the milk in a jar the night before, so that all she had to do was heat it up and go the next day. But she still got this good source of calcium in the morning. So for her snack before she went to go run, she could have, we're going to say, some fortified orange juice. So this is going to have some calcium and some vitamin D in it. Give her some good carbohydrates, and then have a Greek yogurt. So this is going to give her another good source of protein and calcium, so that she can be have another nutrient dense snack. For lunch, we're going to upgrade her salad, and instead of just having regular lettuce, we're going to mix in some spinach, maybe some kale from possibly a mixed green bag. We'll keep the tomatoes. We're going to add some sunflower seeds, some feta cheese, maybe keep a little bit of the chicken, but add some grains. This would be bulgur. Bulgur can be used, you can use it at breakfast. You can cook it like oats, or you can even, you can mix it in to lunch bowls like this as well. We got some blueberries, so we have a lot of flavors going on here as well, and still keeping some of this balsamic vinaigrette. For our snack, we're going to have some hummus. So hummus is made out of chickpeas, so she's getting a good amount of some carbohydrates and some healthy fats and some protein here, and then having a half cup of cantaloupe with that as well, not dipped in the hummus, but separate, so that she'll get some more vitamin C and a little bit more carbohydrates. And then for her dinner, the fish was great, the sweet potato is great, but we also added maybe some Brussels, so we upgraded her greens, or just made something different. Added some nuts, added a grain, and added some fruit. So we added a lot of different things to each of the meals to kind of enhance it. All of these meals have at least at least three different food groups. Your snacks are going to have at least 2. And then at night, she's going to have a Jell-O cup because she loves chocolate and she can have it. So here, this is about 2,000, maybe 2,100 calories. She's getting about 100 grams of protein spread out throughout the day. She's getting about 315 grams of carbs based on how much grain she used throughout the day. And then she's meeting or exceeding all of her B vitamin, calcium, and iron needs. So just making a few additions, including some other food groups, we kind of pumped up her diet there. So this is the last thing, I promise you guys. So when you're making a performance plate, or that's what we like to call it, a performance plate. So it's going to have a lot of energy, a lot of vitamins and minerals. It's not always easy to include all 5 of these, but you want to include at least 4 in each of your big meals. So trying to pair each of these foods with some of the other to build that plate that we looked at before. And that was it. I guess if you want to do that.
Yeah. So I guess right quick, if anybody has any specific questions, go to the chat box and type them in. If we have any specific questions that we can answer, we've got a few minutes left. I know we went a little bit long here. While you're typing those questions, just a quick recap. So what we're talking here is micronutrient needs for endurance athletes as a small special section of the population. So the thing to note is that we expend a lot more energy. We use a lot more energy, and we expend a lot of other things through our sweat. So that means unequivocally that we need more of these micronutrients. We need more macronutrients. Quick recap. In the off season, make sure you're eating to train and not train to eat, reducing that carbohydrate load a little bit, and substituting that carbohydrate load for more fruits and veggies. And then as you get toward the season, you can start to shift that plate back to adding more carbohydrates in to fuel those higher intensity or more race specific workouts. The big, talking about micronutrients, the big things that we need to make sure that we stay balanced on. I think Casey made it pretty clear that overdosing on any micronutrient generally shows no benefit to performance, but having a deficiency in any one of them can definitely decrease performance. So those big ones are vitamin C, vitamin D, calcium, iron. What am I missing, Casey?
E.
Yeah, and all those
B
other
vitamins, B vitamins.
Yeah, B vitamins. That's the other big one. And then a lot of those other little micronutrients. But the other point is that you can get all of those things through the food that you eat. Supplementation isn't necessary per se. We don't normally tell people to supplement unless they've been instructed by a doctor to do so. Our take and Casey's take as well is that you should have fun with food, and it should be there to fuel your daily life and your performance as an athlete. So the key here is balancing everything, not overdoing it and not underdoing it. Underdoing it creates you can starve yourself both calorically and nutrient wise, and both don't produce any big benefits to you. Do we have any? Let's see here. There's a question. Recently had my iron levels tested. Doctor said it was normal as a female athlete. Is there a certain level number that I need to be aiming for?
If you know your ferritin level, you can always look and see if it's within the adequate range, and then how close you are to the normal. I mean, how close you are to low normal and how close you are to high normal. So, you may not be recommended a supplement for a normal range, but that may be an indicator that you definitely need to focus on iron. But you want to stay within the normal range, and I would say that you don't want to have real low normal ferritin levels for sure, especially if you're feeling fatigued, if you're actually having symptoms that are coming out of it. So I don't think there's anything that you have to actually aim for, but you definitely want it to be normal and maybe on the higher half. But
cool. Yeah, I mean, with nutrition and, with everything that has to do with any person, everything is pretty individualized. I don't think, like, it's hard for us as coaches to just come out and say what a person should do for training. It's just equally as hard or harder to just come out and tell somebody what they should be eating or shooting for as far as specific levels of micronutrients. And that is something that if any of you are interested in, feel free to contact us and we can set you up with Casey to really talk to you and get a lot more specific on what you personally need as far as all these macro and micronutrients. And obviously she can help you kind of get used to or plan some eating with that.
Yeah, I will say that it's really hard to generalize nutrition because it is so individualized. I mean, if you think about it, everybody's got a different job. Everybody's got a different stressor. Everybody has different cooking abilities. Everybody has a different budget. Everybody has different preferences. So or maybe you run in the morning and so-and-so runs in the evening. So, when I look at that and I counsel people, it's a lot more specific than just have, 3 meals a day and 3 snacks a day. It's definitely a lot more specific. And then it's not just about food. So, a lot of times we look at behaviors. Are you sitting in front of the TV and that's why you're eating more? Or are you so stressed that it's causing you to eat more? So there's a lot more to diet and food that doesn't have to do with food at all. So we sort of look into that as well.
Cool.
Michelle asked about changing caloric needs after a big race. And I would say that, how quickly do you bump down? And in general, if you have been very, very strict with your diet and you have been at your ideal body weight and you have been training really hard, sometimes you take those transition weeks for, recovery for mentally and physically after big races. And sometimes you have to do that with nutrition too. So maybe not being as strict as you had been if you had been leading up to the race, and taking a few days to kind of not necessarily, let loose and, drown yourself in a beer and chocolate binge, but but definitely getting some relief from that if you had been really strict. But then getting back into it and noting that if you're not doing a lot of physical activity, then you need to start changing right then.
Cool. Barry asked about specific products using during competition triathlon. I would say that is extremely personal as far as the brand that you use. Each company uses different sources of sugar. Some are water soluble, some are not, or some dissolve better in water, some don't. That the form of glucose or the form of sugar that they use may not agree well with your stomach. So as far as actual products, I would say, and we always say, take the time in the off season to try some, but then also as you get closer to your goal race, make sure you are testing whatever foods you plan to use during your race specific workouts. So while you're doing your race pace runs or your race pace rides, make sure you're trying those foods and those brands, because you don't want any surprises on your event day. All right, Mary, we'll get one more in here. Mary said, you mentioned food that should be eaten together for proper absorption, but are there foods that should not be eaten together?
There's really, I wouldn't say I'd set a rule as, never eat these two foods together. I would say that calcium and iron can bind together. So there's phytates that can help or that decrease your iron absorption. So if you're drinking tea while you're eating an iron-rich food, it can not completely block the absorption of iron, but it will decrease how much that you absorb. A lot of your high fiber foods tend to decrease the amount of iron that you eat as well. So that's kind of why vegetarians typically need a lot more iron, or they need to consume a lot more iron so that they can actually get the amount of iron that they're trying to get. So so trying to not drink any kind of tea. If you can separate your dairy products and your iron-rich foods, then that's a good thing to do as well. So if you can separate maybe your snacks, like your Greek yogurts, into your snacks, and have a big focus on your iron-rich foods at meals, that can help that absorption as well.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody coming out and listening to the webinar here and taking in the information. I know for some it's a lot of information to take in, but this is a really, really important topic, and it's one of the big reasons why we wanted to bring Casey on as well, is to have someone to basically give people the information they want, because that's the number one thing we get asked about is nutrition. And this nutrient balance and macronutrient balancing is something that most endurance athletes are not very good at. The general population of endurance athletes are not the best at balancing macro and micronutrients. But thanks again for coming out. We will be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow with the 1 week meal plan for everybody. Those are broken up into 3 different caloric needs. Again, it's very hard to generalize this stuff, so we basically just had Casey break it into 3 different caloric values. We'll also send some other information there. And if you guys have any specific questions that we haven't answered tonight, you could always email us. And if you're interested in getting together with Casey and digging deeper into your specific macro and micronutrient needs, don't hesitate to give us a shout. So we appreciate it. If anybody has any other questions you were scared to ask, we'll stick around for a second here. But other than that, we'll release you back to your lives. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. Hasta la vista. You're free to go.